What's up, guys? It's Aaron.
What's up, Brad?
This is episode
Three of the podcast.
of podcast on Strange Realms.
Oh yeah, welcome back, or for the first time if you're here.
Either way, we're glad to have you.
Always. We're gonna get into today is secret societies,
Secret organizations. And when we say that, we don't mean like we were talking about. Some of these secret societies are more on the occult side. Some of them are just committees, institutions.
big corporate people.
Yeah,
in
but that's
industry.
the main theme that you really have to pay attention to, and I think is significant, is all these people, for the most part, on these committees. A lot of them, people probably don't never heard of them. But
By design.
well, yes, I would say like a lot of people. And we've talked about that all the time. Like, if you really had power, the best way to keep it is not let people know you have it to begin with.
Right, exactly.
But a lot of these people are in really high positions: business, economics, banking, scientific, and research type of environments.
Media.
That's a big one.
Big media.
Pro sports, all that type of stuff. So, whether or not they're up to, no good or whatever. I mean, we have our personal opinions about it. But, it's the question has to be asked, like, how much influence do they really have on the world and how it works?
And why do they need so much influence?
Yeah, like what's the point of these meetings? Like, I mean, I would love to get in like one of these.
Fly on the wall.
Yeah, I would love to just be sitting there observing what happened at a meeting in one of these places. But we're going to get into it. So I guess the first one we can talk about. We'll talk about Skull and Bones. We'll start with the juicy one first.
It's pretty.
Yeah, people know
pretty
about Skull and Bones. And what's interesting to me about this secret society is you've got political members or political figures, I should say, that are on both sides of the, like both parties as far as America goes.
Right.
You got John Kerry, who was like a Democrat. I say that with loosely quotation mark, And the Bushes, it was I want to say Yale. Yeah, Yale University.
Yeah.
And they got it's literally just a skull with, crossbones, bones behind it. Or it's also referred to as the Order, or Order 322. They're, like I said, based in Yale. And
they're pretty old.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time. Let me see if I can find
1832.
1832. Yeah, so a long time.
They actually have a website you can go check
It
them out.
reminds me of like how the Illuminati had a Facebook page.
Oh yeah, dude. Who knows? That could have been troll shit.
It probably was, but I don't know. It's just still funny as hell to me.
You
Like,
get really deep into it and get into like the symbology and all that stuff, though. It's totally believable.
and there's been some like videos, and we can we'll put them up on the in the video or in the in the podcast. They have like mock executions, like these rituals that they do, where they like fake a sacrifice, basically. Like somebody will. They got really, just odd initiations. Like one of them is they got to get like, I want to say they have to get like completely naked, and they have to tell the other members like their deepest secrets. Like they have to, really have to divulge. And whether or not that's like, I'm sure that works on multiple fronts. It's probably like to get, trust and to make sure that you're fully committed or, into this society.
Right.
And at the same time, it's almost like blackmail. Like you better not stray too far. Because we've got dirt on you.
Dirt on you. Right.
Exactly. Let's see.
So the original name was I don't want to butcher this. Eulogian Club.
Eulegian?
Eulegian Club.
Eulegian Club.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
The founder was William Huntington Russell.
Yeah, well, the Russell family is supposed to be like one of the, like the third, and this is a whole different topic for another day. I mean, it definitely relates to what we're talking about, but there's like 13 families, or these like super prestigious families. When you think of like powerful families, you think of like the Windsors, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, which not that, yeah, not that they weren't. They're up there with them, but the Russells are, I think they're super influential and wealthy, and not a lot of people know about the Russells, but the Russells is definitely one to look for. But yeah, he started that. They've got. They've been around for a long. It's almost like a fraternity, I guess, but like that's just like that's surface level stuff. I feel like.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I was thinking about it earlier when I was doing research on it and stuff. It was like, is it more of a fraternity? Do you make your connections while you're there, and then, or do they still do like meetings after, like?
Oh yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean.
It's kind of like an alumni,
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like I feel like it's definitely something that you're in for life, so to speak. It's not something that you're just like, oh well,
yeah, we did this.
I was an Alpha, Theta, Kappa, whatever for 4 years.
With the guys back in college.
Yeah, we shotgun beers and stuff,
Wild times.
I think it's a little more than that, because definitely all these people that are in this are not poor. They're not your average Joe. They're not blue collar. They're as white as you can get, bleached. White collar. When I say I don't mean white, but like white collar.
So they let the first woman join Skull and Bones in 1992.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was all male.
No.
Huh.
Let me see if I can find her name here.
Is my volume still good?
Yeah,
okay.
You're good, man. Let's see. And it talks about how like the guy he founded it under something he was studying in Germany.
Well, that's where the Illuminati came from.
Right.
Well, it came from Austria. It came from an Austrian guy, or Bavaria. Yeah, but I don't know. We were going to talk about. I mean, everybody talks about the Illuminati, but that's so. We were talking about it earlier. It's such a nebulous term. It's like anything and everything can be contributed or blamed on the Illuminati.
Yeah, it's a blanket thing.
Yeah.
Well, I can't find her name, but it says 1992. But what's something else that's cool that I found too right here? It says right here they one of the rumors is that one of the relics they have in their hall, where they go to do their thing or whatever.
It's called the Tomb. The Skull and Bones Hall is called the Tomb.
Yeah, so one of the relics they supposedly have is the skull of Geronimo,
Jesus.
Apache.
Yeah, that's not ominous.
War chief, right?
As if we haven't already just obliterated that culture to begin with. I mean, yeah, so like they've got a. Let me see. I'm trying to find some of these members.
And Skull and Bones is also. It's one of the ones that have a really big like occult connection.
Yeah, they're definitely. They've got rituals.
Like dark magic type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's. I don't know why else you would. Why would you have a mock execution in front of like a statue and be pretending to execute somebody unless there was some kind. I don't know. It's not that. I think the main thing for people to really remember when you're watching this and we're talking about it, it's not necessarily that I believe in this stuff that they're like. I mean, I believe that they're doing it. Like this magic and this occult stuff, like whether you believe in that or not, they believe it's real for the most part. Like,
right.
I mean,
they're convinced of it.
They're convinced. You'll find that in a lot of these different societies. I found something here about how.
One thing you gotta really remember though is they believe in it, but then you look at who they are, who these people are, and the positions of power and wealth they hold and have held through generations, it's like,
I know
could be real.
I feel like there's something to it. Yeah,
that type of stuff. But
they were talking about that says where the 322 came from, and it's
numerology.
Well, yeah, it's definitely, but it's rumored to be the date of Demosthenes, which is an ancient Greek politician and orator who died in 32 BC, and why they would have picked that as a mystery, but it's supposed to be like, it's also a number. It's a play on the year of the formation 32 and the number 2, which stands for the second chapter, which is weird because it's like, whenever it's the first chapter,
right?
Like, well, I don't know. It's really. It says right here that they have ties to the Bavarian Illuminati, but who really knows?
Right. It's like the Illuminati's boring.
Yeah, it's just everybody.
I mean, it's cool.
No, I mean it's interesting, but it's like it's such a broad term, man.
Yeah, everybody blames.
And all that means is illuminated.
Yeah, right.
Like it,
People think the Illuminati's like the top of the
food chain, so to speak. It could be, man. I don't know. That just might be.
Well, you know what we think about the whole arms being.
Oh yeah, like you've got different. It's compartmentalization. Like you've got all these groups and stuff, and they think that they're operating independently of their own will, but it's really like they're being pushed and influenced by stuff that they're not aware of.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
One thing controlling.
The left arm doesn't know what the right arm's doing, type stuff.
Either way, the head wins.
Yeah, basically.
Like, so.
Let's see. We got a list right here. Let's see. The founding members was the Russell guy. George Ingersoll. He was a clergyman. The Alfonso Taft. He was the U.S. Attorney General, the Secretary of War, Ambassador to Austria and Hungary.
William H. Taft, President. He was another.
Yeah, he was another.
That was in it.
Mm-hmm. And the Taft family. I was looking.
They got a history.
Man, like I was looking into them, and they've got like
pretty interesting.
Like international drug smuggling, if you will, in Vietnam, the Southeast Asia. A lot of ties to the Vietnam War.
Must be kin to those that family from Arkansas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Put roots down in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. A lot of people. I'm trying to find some like.
More current.
It's basically just okay. So you've got district court judges. You've got the governor of Connecticut. You've got the U.S. representative from Connecticut. You've got a district. All these district court judges. New York, Rhode Island, Maine, Mississippi.
Lawmakers and.
The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court in 1837 was in that. Yale Professor of Chemistry, representative from Georgia. Now, these are in like 1837s. Let me see. Let me look at more recent members. Let's get into like the 1980s and 90s. Yeah, there we go. John Kerry. Weasel man.
What I understand is like just because it's a secret society, what makes the society secret is not that it exists; it's what they
are doing and what their aim is
amongst themselves when they're in these meetings or whatever. And they of course they all claim it's
George W. Bush
pushing
like we said earlier,
talking business.
Let's see, the founder of FedEx, Frederick Wallace Smith. The ambassador of Australia. There was a guy, Brian John Dowling. I guess he was he was in the NFL. Let's see. Michael Cervais. Or Cerveris. No, Cerveris. Okay, I thought that was like... man, it reminded me of Ricky Gervais. It's like Ricky Gervais wouldn't be anywhere near this, bro. That video of him going off at the Grammys or the Golden Globes, he was just tearing them apart, man.
Letting them have it. I fucking love that.
Paul Giamatti, the actor, is in Skull and Bones.
I was waiting for someone from fucking Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, there he is. Stephen Munchin, the Treasury Secretary for Trump, was in it. See, man, that's what makes me, that really cements the idea that I don't care what political side of the spectrum, like what side of the political spectrum you're on, man. It's really all just a show, and just in my opinion. It's just it's a divide and conquer technique. We've talked about it a lot of times, but it's like,
that's why you only have two choices.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no options. And if you look at like the trend, like let's say you look at the Bushes, when I was in like middle school and elementary school, like late elementary school, it was, Republican, Democrat, back to Republican, back to Democrat. It just bounces back and forth, and the political or the public opinion is like, oh, this is a good one because we're so tired of this, what the previous party did.
Yeah, right. It's like
it's a back and forth game.
Balance, but it's not a balance.
Not a balance. It's not a healthy balance. It's just like it's a balance of bullshit.
It's the illusion of balance.
Mm-hmm.
But then
that's a good way to put it.
If you sit back and look at it, it's like, why would you keep going back and forth? Because this person that was in office did it for 4 to 8 years, and then the next party comes in and they're gonna like come and topple everything that they just did.
And see, this has multiple ethnicities. The Earl G. Graves Jr. He was the president of Black Enterprise, which is a magazine about African American business enterprise. That he was in it. It's just, the list goes on, man. It's just actors. George Lewis was in it. Oh man!
Why would all these people be in it?
Blackstone, like the Blackstone cat, like the these hedge funds and stuff like that. Like the co-founder of that is in it. U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame inductee Don Shallander was in Skull and Bones, and it's just like, not this like we said. We're not throwing accusations. It's just you need to it really makes you think, or it should, it's just a wide encompassed group of people, and
it goes deeper than
making
connections. It's not like you're starting your own business, going out here and you're trying to make connections with people and get business. It's like,
no, this is way more,
it's way deeper than
foundational than that. Yeah. The governor of Oklahoma. Let's see.
You start talking judges and stuff, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's not only is it in the Congress, and not only is it in the House of Representatives, different the different branches of government, like the Treasury and Department of Defense, DOD, and all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's in every facet. You've got the entertainment industry, you've got the political apparatus, if you will.
A lot of people are starting to wake up more to that too. The whole shadiness in the entertainment industry, not just Hollywood, but even like the music.
If Epstein didn't wake you up and Weinstein didn't wake you up, I don't know what will. That's enough for me. It goes way deeper than that, but yeah, I don't want to get too much. I'm not trying to get this video flagged, to be honest with you.
Too deep into all that stuff. And save that for...
Yeah, it's definitely going to be on the website.
Another time and place. Trying to get stuff worked out on Rokfin so we can get on there, man.
Let's see. So Winston Lord, he was the chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations in 1960, the ambassador to China, the U.S. Secretary of State. It's like literally it's a super prestigious club.
And it should just go to show you, too, it's out there. It doesn't matter what side of the
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's whatever you want to call it, these guys are on, man. These motherfuckers are...
Yeah, they're on all sides of the spectrum. It's not something that's... And look at this, Charles Edward Lord II, Charles Edward Lord II, the vice chairman of the Export-Import Bank of the United States. I mean, look, this is crazy. This guy, William Sloan Coffin Jr., was a clergyman, a CIA agent, and a peace activist. Like, huh? You got both Bushes. You got Bush Sr. and you got Bush Jr.
My cat's going crazy in the background. If you hear, like, that sound.
He's getting hyped up. Or she's getting hyped up. Yeah, I mean, if it's not the Rockefeller family lawyer.
This is just one.
This is just one organization or one secret society.
Out of, I would assume there's thousands.
I'm sure they call themselves a fraternity, which, I mean, at a base level, it is. But,
right.
I mean, it's not, I don't know. I think it's a little bit more pervasive and encompassing than that.
Even though we're talking about all this crazy stuff that could go on with it, a lot of it is just like what people think, and it's like speculation. Like it could be.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is for.
It could really be just what they say it is, right?
A rich person's club, yeah.
Right, it really
or
could
influential
be that,
club.
But
what you really got to do.
The convenience of it all is just way too much to just
yeah,
be like,
and it's like what you really do is you start looking at these members, and then you go and you look at what each of these people have done, and look at their, like if they're in government, you look at their policies. Sports figures, I mean, that's just kind of like the what's the term that Julius Caesar used? Bread and circus. You just keep them in it. That's all you need to rule a population is bread and circus.
Get really popular actors or really popular, athletes to say something to all
it's
their
influential. It
followers.
shapes public opinion. Yeah.
Gets an idea out to a group of people that otherwise might not hear that idea be pushed or whatever.
H.G. Heinz, the guy who started the Heinz ketchup company, he was in it. I mean, it's literally just, none of these people are like, oh, well, he was a mailman. He was I mean, they got teachers for sure, but they're like, professors.
Yeah.
Professor of pediatrics at Harvard Medical School, surgeons, singers, lawyers, diplomats. Like I said, we're just repeating ourselves. They got a NATO official in here. John Sherman Cooper. He was from Kentucky.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it's from literally all walks of life, and and most of these
Crazy.
people are just Prescott Bush. So that was George H.W. Bush's dad. So that's 3 generations of Bush dudes. Yeah.
What's their brother's name? What's George's brother?
Jeb.
Jeb. He just gets left out of everything, doesn't
he? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, he was the governor of Florida when the recount happened. Like the 5 different recounts. We didn't get the result we wanted. Let's recount again.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was super crazy, even as a kid.
Yeah, like how y'all gonna recount it 6 times or whatever it was? Like,
it was forever. It took it forever to figure that out.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's just.
And as a kid, you was like, I don't know.
I mean, look at this picture. Like, okay, so like if you know what a catacomb looks like, right? Like it's like in a graveyard. That's literally what this hall looks like. It looks like a catacomb.
Yeah, apparently it started out as like a small, just kind of like a small room, and then of course over the years they've added on 2 or 3 times. I think it said I was reading about like the actual structure.
It says only 15 invites to the Skull and Bones is made every year.
Yeah.
15 a year, and there's only 800 living members at any one time.
And what's really crazy is that you're not even invited until you get invited, I think.
By a senior member.
By a senior member, but you're not even invited into it until your junior year of college.
Oh, yeah.
They come up and like...
Yeah, so this is the one I was talking about. During the initiation ceremony, new members, they lay inside a coffin completely nude. And while doing so, they must recite or say or recount their whole sexual history to their fellow members. And they say, by exposing the most intimate secrets of their lives, it fosters camaraderie and loyalty. But it's like, I don't know. That's super.
If you're into
really
symbology
yes.
and all of that stuff,
mm-hmm.
and if you look at it from an occult or supernatural, whatever you want to call it, it's much deeper than.
I mean, you know, and this is, I hate to be like the type of, like, I'm not the type of person to just judge a book by its cover, but their symbol is literally a skull and bones.
Yeah, right.
With crossbones behind it. Like, I don't know. It could be anything else, but it has to be that.
To play devil's advocate just a little bit, like, we're both, like, I like all kinds of different music, but at heart, like, I'm a metalhead. So to me, the skull and crossbones is a super badass symbol. So maybe it was just some guy like, yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, but in the 1800s?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just really, hey, cat. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. It's so they said their purpose is to help their members reach positions of prominence. So they use their influence to help elevate other members. So basically,
the way to the presidency.
Yeah, nepotism. In so many words. I don't know, man. It's just it makes you really, really think.
Well.
Yeah, right here. This is they stole the skull of Geronimo, and that was George. Oh my! It says legend, so this is alleged. But Prescott Butch, which was George Sr.'s dad, broke into Geronimo's tomb and stole the skull.
Wow.
And this says this is one of the more believable pieces.
We're going to get into the skull and bones on its own. We're going to do a whole episode on just it sounds like, because that's some crazy shit.
I mean, because you really can just, I can go all day about that one.
Oh, man. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Bilderberg
Group.
That was some cool shit to read about.
Let's see. You start us off. I'm going to look at something.
So the Bilderberg meeting, as it's so referred to, you can go to their website.
Yeah, they have a
website. I'm on it
website
right now. It's started in 1954. About 130-ish, 120 to 150 people go every year, and it's
Is it every year? Or is it every 10 years?
What does it say? I thought it was every year.
I don't want to say it's like every 10.
It might not be every year. They had the last one was in 2019, and they couldn't do one because of the virus.
Yeah, well, yeah, they say they didn't meet, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like the global warming, the conference they had for that, where they all just showed up in their own private jets that are just pumping out carbon. Yeah.
Gotta love that shit. It's the cows.
Let's see.
So the Bilderberg meeting, so it's like, I mean, your top executives, and there's people, I'll pull it up in a second. You can go see who all went to this, the last one in 2019, which was in Switzerland.
Oh, it's each year. Yeah, it's every year.
It's every year. I thought it was every year. And so it's, your CEOs of all your big companies go, or not all, but like, it's by invite. Big media people go, politicians. They broke it down. It was like mostly politicians, and then people from industry, outside of that industry, media and all that.
And see,
so they get on. They're supposedly, where was this? I gotta find the list about what they talked about.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say is they discuss issues that affect the Western world, issues such as China, Islam, energy management, the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, corporate governance, the growth of certain nations, and international affairs. And the thing with me is it's like, okay, I mean, that could be as innocent as it sounds, like, as...
but why do these people...
The thing is, we have no say in it. It affects us,
right?
As a
the
population,
world.
Yeah, as citizens of the world, it affects us, and we have no say in it.
So, the number one, I'm going to just read the list 1 to 11. The key topics for the discussion of the 2019, and this one is a stable strategic order.
Yeah.
Top one on the list. What the fuck does that even mean? What next for Europe? Climate change and sustainability. China, Russia, the future of capitalism. Brexit. Don't know what that is.
That's Britain leaving the European Union.
Oh yeah. So I don't keep up that much with that. I don't.
Yeah.
The ethics of artificial intelligence. It's a bad idea. That's all you need to know. The weaponization of social media. Completely agree.
That's what I'm
that.
saying. Like,
I wonder if they were like a cup of tea or whatever, fucking a toast to that, because that's going swimmingly for them. The importance of space and cyber threats, social media.
yeah. But the weaponization of social media.
Social media.
So, like, I mean, you could interpret that in a couple ways, like maybe fighting the weaponization of social media.
Were they discussing the issue that it's causing, or were they discussing how to do it?
Yeah.
Or how to further do it? Because, I mean, like...
I would say all aspects of it.
Even though we've only done a few shows so far, if you've watched any of them, you can probably tell we're not huge on social media, at least not from a personal standpoint.
No.
Obviously, we have to use it for the podcast and to get to people, but I don't want to say I'm completely against social media. I think it is an important thing, but
if people cannot feel alone because of it and reach out and connect with other people,
right.
That's awesome. But I feel like in almost any case, people should do that organically.
You have to remember, though, especially these young kids have to remember, if you're on Instagram and all this other bull crap, you're chasing somebody who's chasing somebody who's chasing somebody. You're trying to be like somebody who's trying to be like 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah.
Like, you got to stop worrying about that.
Well, that, and it's like, you look at somebody's, like, they're not going to be, I mean, if somebody's on, there are people, a lot of people on social media, I should say, that are, they're honest about their life. Like, they'll post their problems.
Right.
A lot of them post their problems too much.
That goes in the other direction. Exactly right. That goes in the other direction of just feeling.
It's just kind of like it echoes out and starts to affect your life, because it's like, man, I wonder if I got that problem, or am I doing okay in that department? It just creates a lot of self-doubt, and that echoes and ripples out. And you're just, not to get super sidetracked. It's just, this relates exactly to what they're talking about. Like, it's definitely been weaponized. It's been that way for years and years. I miss MySpace, dude, to be honest. Tom had I mean, whether or not that was like an ulterior motive and that was there's an agenda behind that.
I feel like MySpace was the peak of social media, like what it should.
That's what it should have just stayed that, man. Yeah. And what's interesting is you have these groups like this talking about the weaponization of social media, and it goes from MySpace to Facebook to Instagram, which is just an extension of MySpace. It's just a more vain selfie version of Facebook, Twitter. I wouldn't say, I don't know, there's some like Parler and Gab, they're not as bad, I wouldn't say. I mean, Reddit is social media, I guess. It's a forum. But I mean, anybody, that's not censored. I mean, there's a lot of awesome stuff on Reddit, but there's also a lot of bad stuff on Reddit.
It's kind of like Wikipedia. I mean, you just kind of got to take everything you read on
That's
it.
the nature of the internet, I feel like, yeah.
Well, like, if you really think about it, I mean, you talk about the weaponization of social media. It's not that old to be as
it's so
destructive as it is.
Well, that, and it's like they make leaps and bounds in this tiny little avenue of technology. We're not advancing in other categories like propulsion and travel and
not publicly.
Just transportation publicly. Yeah, that's the key word. We're not publicly advancing in that stuff, but it's like it correlates to what they're talking about in this, because it's like it's the weapon again. I keep repeating myself, the weaponization of social media, but I mean it just goes to show you that it definitely is something that they are striving for. They've been, they definitely were talking about it. They definitely discussed it, and it's definitely being implemented and applied in real time.
And most people, you'll never even notice it.
Yeah, I mean,
The
it's gradual.
The average person will never even notice that they're being targeted on a daily basis. Every time you get on your phone, whether it be
They're collecting
an ad,
data, yeah.
whether it be an ad you're being targeted by, a post on social media that they know is going to trigger a response from you.
And see,
Always.
I think that's the way you do it, because the way you take away people's rights, and it's not necessarily like social media does that. It shapes public opinion, so it's inadvertently making people give up their rights anyway, because it's spreading propaganda and all this other and these ideas and stuff. But what you do is you do it in really small increments. So you push, and then people are like, no, I don't like that. So we stop for a little bit, and then once you give them a distraction, they're distracted by something else, and that's partly our own fault.
No, yeah,
and then they push again, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, stop, you're pushing.
It's just like
slowly and surely.
When the internet started out, when all social media and stuff starts out, YouTube and everything, it's like the Wild West, so to speak, of it. And then you get away with all this stuff, and people love it, and they get you hooked on it. So then they put restrictions on it, and you're like, oh, man, this sucks, but we'll deal with it because we still like it. And they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until, like you're talking about, until it's like...
You don't realize how far it's come until it's like...
It's like eventually, like if you're at this point where you're at now, 10, 15 years ago, they would have saw a bunch of pushback on it. But since it's gradually taking place...
You don't even notice it's happening.
You don't even know.
It's like the water rising a centimeter at a time.
It's just like, what is it? Net neutrality shit they were talking about. They're slowly doing it, bro. Like, you can get all these different shows. People want to watch all these different shows, so you have to pay for all these different streaming. That's the same thing. You got to pay for all these streaming apps and stuff, and it's like, it's ridiculous.
It's taking the content or whatever and just like, it's almost like, it's like war profiteering. It really is.
I'm not saying give it away for free.
No, but like, okay, so like in the Iraq War, Halliburton got the contract for like all the, logistics, supplies, communications, lodging, food, everything, all this logistical stuff. And they subcontracted out to a bunch of smaller companies. So they're like, okay, well, you're going to handle food transportation for barracks A, B, C, D, and E, and F, or bases, A, B, C, and D. And then this company will do E, F, G, and H, and then so they just subcontract out and break it up and then make a ton of money because these smaller companies have to pay for those contracts, and they take what is $1 trillion contract and you potentially, triple it, quadruple it, and they just make so much more money. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So I want to talk about number one here, a stable strategic order.
Yeah, see, so what is a stable strategic order?
What the fuck does that mean?
That makes me think, okay, so like this quote, George H.W. Bush, where he said, what was it?
One of the greatest quotes in history. A new world order.
No, hold up. Let me find it.
Pull it up.
It's great. Global controls will have to be imposed, and a governing body will be created to enforce that.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Something along those lines.
Let me see. I'm going to find it, actually, because I'm probably butchering it.
He actually uses the phrase or the words New World Order.
Yeah.
Straight up. Here we are. Trying to figure out, I can't remember who started the Bilderberg meetings. I'm pretty sure it was I was reading it earlier. It was Rockefeller.
It was something like that, though. He basically was saying that global controls will have to be imposed, and a new world or a governing, something like that, a new governing body or something like that will be created to enforce it. So it's like, what are these global controls, and who's going to enforce it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I think nationalism to a certain extent is not a good thing, but autonomy is, having say what happens, or having a say over what happens to you and your family or with your family.
Right.
Is very important. Free will and sovereignty are super, super important things.
Gets into the whole argument of like, and what I personally feel is like, at that level, big government, federal government can't do anything for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically having somebody else solve your problems. Yeah.
Look, I feel like
not that we shouldn't cooperate together. It's the same thing as taxes. Like, if
Right.
our taxes actually got used for stuff that benefited us, as far as how much we put, how many taxes we pay, how many taxes are on different things. Like you talk about income tax and property tax. Like, I bought this house. Like, I buy a house, I pay off the mortgage to whoever I bought it from, who owned it, but I'm still kicking up a vig. I'm still kicking up protection money to the government. It's literally like the mafia.
You have to pay.
It's no different.
You have to give me money in order to be able to own this. It's
to continue to own it.
Yeah, right.
And if you want to get kicked out, like, if you don't want to get kicked out, you're going to keep giving us protection money. I mean, that's literally what they used to do. The mob will go around the business, like, if you don't want us to come smash your store up, you're going to keep giving us money.
Been looking into buying land, and it's like, okay, you buy the land, and then you have to pay the tax on it. So it's like, I bought it, it's mine, but I still have to pay every year to keep it.
For what? And like, what is that money? If that money was for, like, if you guys were coming out and mowing the grass and all that, I'm already paying the utility companies to get energy.
On a small level, that's why I hate auto insurance. It's like, I pay this every month on a just in case basis.
Yeah.
Like, if it covered my oil changes or tires or something,
I got liability. That's it, man.
Yeah, right. It's like,
if I get hit and I get serious help, like, if
we hit that deer and
if I get like, some like actual trauma level, if I get hurt in a car wreck, I'm covered. But I don't mean, the hell with the car. I don't know. I'm not paying any more than liability.
So the Bilderberg.
We got off topic. Sorry, folks. No, we really didn't. It's just
it
really does tie together. And I know that sounds, if you're not really into conspiracies and deep dive research type of stuff, it's
right.
It seems like it's not connected. But
even if you don't believe in the conspiracy aspect of it, these types of things
just look at the nuts and bolts and follow the money.
It's important to understand, like, or at least think about why. Like, why are these people meeting? Why do they have a say? Because it says they're supposed to meet as individual as themselves. There's no
agenda,
influence, or outside, whatever.
But you do.
It. But then they take all this knowledge and information that they've just traded with these people and talked to about, and they take it back out into the world.
Yeah, it's insider trading.
Where they're in charge and then enforce it. And they're like, all right, well, I know what he's trying to do over here, so I'm going to do this over here to help him.
Yep. I mean, it's literally just, like I said, I would be all for everybody coming together and working together as a whole and uniting. And I am for that, but it's like, it's got to be the people that do it and not these people who own literally everything. Like, Did you ever find out who started it?
I didn't. I never found it, but I'm pretty sure this is the one I was reading earlier that was one of the Rockefellers.
Yeah.
Started it.
They did. I'm almost positive it was a Rockefeller.
Yeah, which is that whole name is a topic for
Well, I mean, that's why they developed the anti-monopoly laws, was because of Standard Oil. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, Bilderbergmeetings.org. Bilderbergmeetings.org. And Bilderberg is Bilderberg. Just look into it. It started in 1954.
A lot of people might think like, oh, well, if they're up to any no good or whatever the case is, why do they have websites and all this stuff? And that goes into sigil magic and the occult.
Yeah,
and
stating your intent.
Them putting it out in front of your face and saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing," or "This is what goes on here." You can get in
look,
on
we
the
told you.
information. Right, yeah. And now you can't do anything about it. Because,
Yeah. Whether you believe in that or not, I do. I mean, that's something that's on a personal level, and like we're gonna have a whole series and discussion about the occult and spirituality and
all that kind of
manifestation
stuff.
and the law of it, all that stuff. But
probably do one of those episodes next. We've done several on like
conspiracies and paranormal
things. Yeah. So we get into like some spirituality type stuff.
Let's see. We'll talk about the round table next, I guess. Now the round table, a lot of people are familiar with what's called the like you become a Rhodes Scholar. Let me find it. Hold on. I had a really good thing about it, and I can't find it. Okay, yeah, round table group. So the round table group was in the late 1800s, 1877, was when it started. Like the idea was starting to, that had been kicked around amongst the elite and stuff that are in this particular order or group. It's a precursor to the Committee of 300, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Council of Foreign Relations, which is just, and you'll see a common, at least in my opinion, you see a common theme among these groups where it's just super rich, mostly men or individuals, just having private meetings about world affairs that nobody else is clued into or really given any information about or have any say in for real.
Right. You might think like, oh, that's no different than like what we're doing, sitting down and having a discussion, but we don't hold that much.
I don't own a Fortune 500 company.
Right, we don't hold that much
international
weight.
Company, no.
Influence, we don't
pretty
have
much
all that clout.
Yes, it was started by Cecil Rhodes, hence Rhodes Scholar. He had a professor, John Ruskin. He was English. He was an English professor. He taught his apprentices or his students. He had the idea that some people were superior to others, and that one superior man should rule the world. He literally thought that, and Cecil Rhodes took that to heart. He gave most of his wealth and influence to diamond and gold mining in South Africa, and pretty much started the, he wanted what was called, he proposed the idea for the British to re-annex the United States of America and reform itself into an imperial federation to establish a superpower and lasting world peace. He wrote his, let me see.
It's a funny concept.
In 1891, he established the Round Table Group. It's got an inner core of so it's kind of like, and one thing you'll notice and especially if you look into this type of stuff, is these organizations and secret societies, they have, a general membership, a circle, and then they've got inner circles, and that's got an inner circle, and that's got another. It's like, what are they called? Those Kakashka dolls or something, little eggs, where it's like a smaller. It's just, it keeps kind of fractal almost,
right.
But like it's just, you have inner circles within inner circles.
Just like with the Masons, which we're not really going to talk about today.
No.
But like degrees.
I feel like in a lot of ways they
Masons.
get a bad rep. I know people that are in it. I mean, they're not high degrees.
Exactly. It's like they're in the club, but they're not in the club.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to a meeting. I have no idea what goes on. But
right.
I mean, I watched an interview with one, and he said really the only thing that they don't really want known is like certain parts of their rituals and stuff that they do. Most of the other stuff is, I mean, it's pretty. It can be considered common knowledge, right? It's not like hidden,
Yeah, right. They can talk about it.
And that's another thing is we're not saying that everybody. It's kind of like the CIA or the FBI or the military industrial, any of these organizations or groups or conglomerate, whatever you want to call them. Not everybody. That's one. We're not saying that the entire organization and that everything is. We're not using it as a blanket term for all these are people are bad. You know.
Yeah, right.
There's people in the CIA that are honest people, that are good people. It's just like police. There's bad police. There's good cops and bad cops. There's good teachers and bad teachers. You know, it's not everybody in these organizations.
One bad apple.
Yeah, exactly. There's bad apples within a group of good apples. So the round table was basically it was the beginning and the catalyst or start, if you will, of the United Nations, the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Trilateral Commission, and the did I say the Council on Foreign Relations? Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
But it's basically all encompassing. Like that's world governance right there. That's the whole. That's the globe. That's global, and
that's kind of how a lot of them are. It's like
the Rothschilds were in it.
The offshoots of all these bigger groups.
And we're, like I said, there's a lot of topics we're going to do individual series on, but there's so many quotes by Cecil Rhodes, the guy who started this, that are just, it's really hard to interpret them any other way other than they were really trying their aim was literally global domination. And I know that sounds, a lot of people are like, oh, that's crazy. That's it's a conspiracy and it's too wild to be true. But I mean, you just got to, like I said, do a little bit of research yourself, look into it, and it's really, I mean, you could come to different conclusions, and that's great, you know. Me personally, I really don't see this as an altruistic group or aim. Like it doesn't seem that way to me.
Right.
You know, and that's
why
like
a lot of this stuff doesn't seem, you know what I mean?
My dad always talks about this all the time. Like, if you got power, you're going to do whatever you can to keep that. And I mean, it's so true.
That's where all the meetings come in. It's like, knowledge is power, and it's what they pass, and then in these meetings is just
and this
knowledge.
Isn't fear mongering on our part. It's just we want people to be aware that this stuff exists in the first place. Because I mean, everybody has heard of the Illuminati and the NWO and stuff like that, but it's not that all-encompassing. It's a lot of different groups that are basically the same, like, inner circles, but it's just different different groups and different aims, basically.
It's all the same, it's just different.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, Lord Alfred and Rhodes ran it for a while. It talks about the Rhodes Scholarship. And Lord Alfred Milner, he was a British banker. He established roundtable groups in other nations, including the United States. He picked a lot of people from Oxford. That's another thing, is it just goes back to skull and bones. It's like a lot of these higher learning institutions are really, really, there's a lot of influence from these groups in them, and they pick their people from that.
Oh, yeah.
And it really makes you think, like,
that's how they put professors in place and whatnot.
I don't know. It's super interesting. Okay, I guess we can go to a different one. Another group, or we talked about, and I guess we could mention the Council of Foreign Relations. That's really, and the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Like I mentioned just a second ago, they're just offshoots of this roundtable group.
Right.
I don't know if the roundtable group is still a thing. It probably is, but I know the Council of Foreign Relations is definitely a thing. That's a private group. It's not like
a lot of these things.
They shape and influence foreign policy, but they're not a part of the U.S. government.
Right.
But they are. It's like the Federal Reserve. It's
A lot of these things, they give names that make you think, and they sound like they're official and
and they're federal,
you know,
yeah.
all this,
And they're not, man.
Privately owned,
and privately influenced.
Yeah.
Private agendas. We're going to have to do just a separate episode because it would take forever to go into each one of these, like the CFR and the it's the Royal Institute of International Affairs.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's worth mentioning the round table because that's pretty much where it started. I guess we could talk about the Order of the Dragon. And I think we've mentioned it before.
I think we brought it up before.
I think it was in the first podcast we were talking about just these weird little coincidences. But the Order of the Dragon was the official story is that it was established to stop the spread and expansion of the Ottoman Empire in the close to the 1400s. The Ottoman Empire was spreading and stuff like that, and this was kind of like Transylvania, Eastern Europe, European countries. They founded this order in order to, like I said, push back against the Ottoman Empire. And it's on the surface, it's talked about like it's a chivalric order, of knights and stuff like that. But there was whole families that were, I can't think of one female knight. I mean, I'm sure there might be honorary female knights and stuff like that. But as far as like being a knight back in that time, it was all male. Yeah. That's why the title is Sir. I mean, it might be a madam, but that's like a different title, I think, or whatever. But Hungary, Hungary and Romania. I said Transylvania. That's a city. Sorry, Romania, Hungary, all that stuff. The Bathories. Everybody knows, or a lot of people know who Elizabeth Bathory was. Hold on, I've got it pulled up here.
This would be a excellent time to mention if you're enjoying the content, you've made it in this far. Don't forget to drop us a like on the video.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with everything we're doing. Trying to get more stuff put out more frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of ramping up a little bit as far as how much we've done.
Hey, I still got some editing to do on another video. Hopefully we'll get together again later this week and record some more stuff.
Hammer out another one. Some interesting people that were in the Order of the Dragon. Elizabeth Bathory, who was from the House of Bathory. That's the same one who was like arguably one of the biggest serial killers in history. She killed like 100+ handmaidens and would like hang them up and drain the blood out of them into like a bath and bathe in it, and was convinced, absolutely and utterly convinced, that kept her young and virile and, gave her energy and stuff like that. And that gets into the whole topic of vampirism.
So she's considered to be not the first, but like one of the first or the biggest influences in the whole vampiric.
Well, they had like there was a vampire. It's kind of like there was a time where it was like the scare. You know what I'm saying? Like it was the fear or whatever. Like there was a huge this huge wave of vampires in the Victorian era, and she was right around. I think it was somewhat close to that time, but I mean it really ties into. That's a whole different rabbit hole, but they were. She was a part of that Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Dracula, which Dracula literally means dragon.
In
Romanian, or Dracul.
Dracul.
Dracul means that. Let me see. They and see, and at that time, it says here that the in these countries, like it was getting like they were torturing, and there was a big there was a problem, or I don't know what you would call it, just a lot of rampant torturing of peasants and stuff like that. Like it was getting really barbaric and, as people say, medieval.
Yeah, right.
Like it was really getting bad for the peasantry. They were getting like tortured and killed, and on top of that, like this, she was just slaughtering people and just bathing in their blood, which is just like, yeah, it just really got it got savage, and it got to the point where they started rebelling and stuff, and they would go and they'd wipe out like whole villages and stuff like that and impale them, and it just got really, which I mean, that's prevalent in a lot of medieval kingdoms in history. You know, they would employ brutal tactics. You know, they wouldn't
scare the enemy.
Yeah, or I mean, or it's the same thing they do now, just a different form, where they use fear tactics to keep the population in line.
Yeah, right.
And what's really weird, the reason I love the Order of the Dragon and this whole Elizabeth Bathory stuff is that that Vlad and that particular royal family can trace its heritage and lineage all the way back to the Windsors, who are the royal family in Britain still.
Yeah.
And like Charles he talked about it all the time. He was like just overjoyed that was actual thing. And like I said before, that's not necessarily an indication that they were. That's not damning, you know what I mean? But he was definitely not known as a nice guy, if you will. And I'm talking about Vlad. I mean, if you were a Romanian at the time and you didn't want the Ottomans to come in and invade, like, yeah, he was a good guy because he kept them out. But
saving your ass.
Yeah, basically. But at the same time, he ruled with a very, very tight grip and an iron fist. So I'm trying to think. There's not really a whole lot on them. It's really, we're going to have to do a more deeper and detailed dive into the Order of the Dragon.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to talk about more and see, like, if you can trace it to now.
Yeah, I mean,
in any way.
but it was based. They say it was based off of the Templars and that whole order, but it was like their version of it, basically.
Right. So I feel like I've heard.
And they were called Draconites. Like the members were literally called Draconites.
I feel like I've heard Crowley mentioned with the Order of the Dragon.
Possibly. I mean, there's so many orders, and it gets like it make your head spin. Like, really,
yeah.
There's so many, man.
Real quick.
I guess we can move on to a different one because there's not a whole lot that I've got on that. What else do we got? What's another one? Oh, Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra, which I couldn't really find much on there.
Yeah, because it's definitely a secret society. There's contradicting things about it, man. I've heard. So basically, it was like there's a couple different takes on it. One version is that it was a altruistic group back in the 1800s and early 1900s. Supposedly Tesla and Edison, which is weird to think that they were both in it because
right.
Edison basically he stole a lot of his stuff. You know, he didn't really come up with all that, and
hijacked it.
Tesla was like the father of the modern world almost. Wi-Fi. I mean, he was talking about cell phones and radar and just all kinds of advanced technologies compared to what they had then that we have today back then. Like he was
right.
just saying, like in the future you'll be able to pull out you'll be able to communicate with people with a device that you can keep in your shirt pocket, which is a cell phone. And then that gets into, I don't know, when I think of Tesla, like I think he was tapped into something else, man. Like he was not a normal guy.
Oh, not by any means.
He was definitely enlightened in a lot of ways. Thomas Edison. It was founded by Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, the guy Gustav Eiffel, Eiffel Tower, H.G. Wells. Let me see. But yeah, it was supposed to be this altruistic group that the main premise of getting in it, you couldn't be a doom and gloom type person. You had to be upbeat. You had to be, it was like artists and industrialists that had a mental or a positive mental outlook on the world. Like it was not something that you couldn't be like a doom and gloom, like I said.
Ideally, you're looking to progress and move society forward.
Yeah, in a positive way.
Right.
And then there's also people like naturally who think that it was some kind of, just another secret society that was just bent on domination, global domination and all this stuff. And
you could argue that it was hijacked by people with that motive.
And I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, and I think you're on the same mind frame or mindset, that a lot of stuff that initially is intended for good and or what you would perceive as good and altruistic stuff gets hijacked and co-opted and taken over and used for stuff that's not originally what it was designed for.
It's like
social media.
Something, yeah, exactly. Something gets built up.
I don't know. I feel like social media was maybe not MySpace because I don't really know the history of Tom. I'd have to look more into that, but you can look into Zuckerberg all day. And
I mean, technically, though, you go back, I remember like first getting on the internet, and you could say even like Yahoo chat sites and shit. That was like the first like social media where you could get on your computer.
ICQ, remember ICQ? Yeah. And Yahoo Pool. Bro, I wasted so much time on Yahoo Pool. My grandpa was like getting into his like later years, and before he passed, like I would stay, we would have days where we would watch him, and I would just be on that computer playing Yahoo Pool, talking to random people. It was so cool.
Oh, yeah, dude. So that was like the first look into social media, and I think they realized from there
the potential
what it could be and like the reach it could have. And then from there, it was just kind of over with.
I mean, what was that? It's called Project Monarch.
Yeah.
It was a CIA project, and if you look into, like, there's the whole story. Obviously, like, what was that movie that guy? It was called The Social Network. Something, where he basically stole the idea from
that was the Zuckerberg movie.
Yeah, he stole that. I can't remember the two brothers or whatever, cousins, or I don't know if they were friends, but he stole it from them, and he stole the idea. But if you look to where they got a lot of their startup money, one of the organizations that gave him a lot of startup money is literally funded by the CIA, and what they do is literally look for startups and emerging businesses that have potential for any kind of relation to espionage, basically.
Yeah, right. It's all was it DARPA? DARPA shit, bro. It's all Amazon. They got all their initial funding from that type of shit. Facebook, YouTube, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, but YouTube eventually got out by Google, who's another like technocracy or part of the technocracy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they might. I don't know. They might have gotten there. They might have just been started from, funded by those guys right off the rip, and it just got more and more consolidated by another group. But
Google just bought it up.
Yeah. But yeah, Plus Ultra was. I don't know. It's kind of cool, man, and they have a lot of. There's a lot of these stories about like they had like these time travelers in it, and they go back and like influenced a lot of like culture and technology that we have today.
Running around leaving little clues behind.
Yeah, basically, and it's just really, I don't know, it's hard to tell, man, like whether or not they were, because you can say that about anything, I mean, all these.
especially hard to look at Tesla and something like that and say it was evil, because I'm being biased in that, though, because I like Tesla. I think Tesla was a good guy.
Oh, yeah, he definitely wasn't for... I mean, he had, like, the... supposedly had, like, a death ray or some kind of, like...
And that's when people started looking at him as... I feel like that was their way of...
Like, oh, man, this guy can be used for some pretty nefarious stuff, yeah.
Well, not only that, but I feel like that's when they started looking at him as, okay, this guy is on to a lot of, like, free energy type shit.
Yeah, and that's not...
Oh, he made a death ray. He's a bad guy. We gotta...
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe
this
that...
credit and all this.
But, I mean, Edison was the one who came up with the idea to grid...
Put it on a grid,
and charge people for it. And that was, what was H.P. Morgan was the guy who funded Tesla for a while. And Tesla was definitely about free energy and all that. And Morgan was like, well, we can't charge nobody for that. And Edison was like, well, you know what? Just in time, or you're just in luck because I got an idea to grid it all for you.
I know how to charge people for it.
Yeah.
We can keep track of it.
Yeah. Put everybody.
Tesla was obsessed with the pyramids.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, just, I don't know. He was definitely tapped into something else, man.
Yeah, that's why I like him, because he was definitely into, like, the non-physical world.
Yeah. Let's see. What's another? How much time have we been?
About an hour and 10 minutes. We'll probably start wrapping it up.
Okay. I guess what's one more we could talk about? We talked about. We talked about Skull and Bones, Bilderberg. We can touch on the Committee of 300. That's just another group that's kind of like the Bilderbergs and the Round Table.
It's kind of like the Bilderberg thing.
It's got, I guess, somebody that a lot of people would know, or I guess they wouldn't know the guy himself, but they would know the organizations that he worked for. Steve Ballmer, he's on this committee. And then this is in a book called Behold a Pale Horse, and it's kind of like, it's pretty, I like it, but me personally, I like any and all information, whether or not I believe it or not. I want to hear about it and learn about it.
Right.
But it gets into what's called the 13 families and or bloodlines or lineages or whatever, and the Committee of 300, and these are supposed to be like it is the Illuminati, like, you know, like that's what they compare it to and all that. And he was the former CEO of Microsoft for 14 years, from 2000 to 2014. He's like arguably the richest owner in pro sports. He's very, very influential.
Prominent guy.
Yeah. There's some more people that were on this. Andrew, Duke of York, all these princes and princesses, royalty basically. This is the Committee of 300 that we're talking about. Yeah, look, Steve Ballmer, CEO of Microsoft. Net worth was $15.7 billion. Let's see. The Queen of the Netherlands. She was also the head of the Bilderberg Group in the Club of Rome. Yeah, good Lord. The ex-prime minister of Poland. And that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. Like, they just got all these different groups, and it's just the same people, man.
Oh, yeah, dude.
The ex-prime minister of Italy, Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Niels Bernstein, the Danish National Bank. I guess he started it or was like a head member of that, or leading member. Donald Berwick, he was the head of U.S. Medicare, Medicaid, connected to Obamacare, professor of Harvard Medical School. Got a lot of British titles. The ex-prime minister of Sweden, Carl Bildt, Bildt.
I say Tony Blair.
Yeah, Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister. Sir Winfred Bischoff, he was the chairman of Lloyd's Banking Group and the ex-CEO of Citi. A lot of big banks, and that's a real reoccurring thing. Is banks and banking conglomerates, and I call it banking cartels because that's literally what it is. These guys are OG gangbangers as far as banks go.
Yeah. That's...
Let's see, Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs.
you start talking about that, you're talking about
Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York
serious...
City, or the former, he's not the mayor no more.
No,
That's de Blasio or something like that. Yeah. Was the former mayor of, he owns Bloomberg Media, which people consume and use all the time as a legit media source.
Not biased at all.
Yeah, the Sultan of Brunei, Hassanal Bolkiah. He was the honorary admiral of the Royal Navy of Britain. He's worth about $20 billion. Michael C. Bonello, the governor of the Central Bank of Malta, another bank. Emma Bonino, the EU minister, ex-EU Parliament. And like I said, they're just all these, it's just literally politicians and bankers, scientists. Let's see, Edgar Bronfman. Yeah, Edgar Bronfman Jr., the ex-CEO of Warner Music Group. I'm going to butcher this name. Zbigniew Brzezinski. He was the head of the Trilateral Commission, which we were just talking about. He was a former U.S. presidential advisor, global think tanks. I'm not going to talk about this other stuff because it'll get us flagged immediately that he was involved in. Let's see.
Oh, hey, Warren Buffett, what's up?
Warren Buffett, yeah, there we go. $44 billion.
Looky there.
Mm-hmm. George H.W. Bush, David Cameron, Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, the second wife of the Prince of Wales. I mean, it literally just goes on, man. It's just nothing but like royalty, politicians, prime ministers, presidents.
People, you look from the outside and you're like, oh, what's the big deal? It's a bunch of important people talking about
Charles,
the
Prince of
world,
Wales, which he was connected to the whole Epstein thing.
Yeah.
Yep. And like I said, and like he was saying, it's not that. I don't think it's like this giant. If anything, man, if there is like, we have our personal opinions about it, and this is the podcast where we like to use our imagination and speculate and stuff. We're not saying that all this is absolute fact and that it really is like. I mean, I think personally that there's definitely agendas to, dominate and control on a global level, but I don't think it's all encompassing. Like there's just one organization that's got everything on such a lockdown that there's no hope and all. Like it's that pervasive. But I do think there's competing groups. Criminal syndicates, if you want to compare them to that are fighting for, that work together loosely for control and stuff like that, and but at the same time are competing against each other. That's really, if anything, what's, in my opinion, what's going on. But yeah, and like I said at the very beginning, if you look at all these members, like not only do they keep popping up in these different groups, but they're on all sides of every side of the political spectrum, Republican, Democrat. You won't really see a lot of libertarian people or type people on there, which is kind of why, I mean, I'm not anything politically. I guess if I had to say what I was libertarian, but
more aligned with
but for the most part, I mean, it's every elite walk of life, if you will. You've got every ethnicity, every nation, all the banking, pharmaceuticals, military industrial complex, clergy, like religious institutions, entertainment industry, sport industry, which I guess is entertainment. It's all. I mean, it really is like they're just. It's so many different like I said, walks of life and ends of the spectrum, man. Really just goes on and on and on.
I think the most interesting thing about it is why.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's really what I want to get across. It's like,
Bill Clinton.
yeah, Bill Clinton. There you go. Old Bill Clinton.
It's like, why would you have something like the UN exist if you have these types of meetings?
Yep. Which, I think that's kind of like, I mean, like I said, I don't think the UN is all bad. I think there's some good that comes out of it. I'm sure there's people that have benefited, you know, like people on our level or even poorer than us, in third world countries that benefit from, you know, UN activities and efforts and stuff like that. You know, they do feed people, they do get people housed, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, even if you look into the Red Cross, man, it's just riddled with controversy and like corruption.
That gets into charities.
It's kind of like PETA. PETA's, they say they're for, you know, animal rights and, you know, stuff like that, but
there was something that they were talking about on that Tinfoil Hat episode. She was talking about the difference between animal rights and animal welfare.
Yeah.
And how people like mix the terms up or think one term means the same for the other, and how PETA kills. PETA is they
have one of the highest euthanasia.
They're directly related to more deaths to animals than any other fucking
group.
Thing.
But you know, they say that they're for animal rights and stuff. They were going off about the Witcher series, the new Witcher series.
Oh, I'm sure the Humane Society. That's another one that's. They say they're this, but they're not.
And, you know, we really can't, like, there's a lot of institutions you can't really talk about right now in a opposing way. But, I mean, that's true for a lot of institutions, man.
No, yeah.
Not that they haven't done good or there's not people in them that are not, every person that's in these organizations or institutions is bad. But I don't know. There's a lot of bad things that can be traced back to these same circles of people and these same groups of people. And it can't be overlooked. And it's like he said, like, why? Like, what is the reason for all these different groups? Like, if it was so transparent and so open and didn't have ulterior, you know, negative agendas and motives, why is it secret? Why is it, you know, they're not talking about what they're not divulging what they talk about at these meetings. They're not right. It's not being shared with anybody.
You can't show us any proof that what you talked about there, information that you learned, you can't prove to me that you're not using that in a leverage, you know, leveraging.
I mean, that's kind of like people will say, oh, that's trying to prove a negative, or, you know, what's that called? You can't say it doesn't exist. So, you know, that whole thing, but it's like, I don't know, man. If you've got that much power and influence, like there's got to be some accountability. That's really what it comes down to.
It's basically like lobbying.
Yeah, but it's lobbying on a global scale, and nobody's talking about it.
It's like you said, like insider trading. It's like, okay, we're gonna have this meeting, guys, and they're gonna go talk about stuff as their own selves, like, even though they're high up in this company or they freaking own this company or they're in charge of this certain thing, they're not going to use any of that.
Yeah, the president of Goldman Sachs. Sorry.
No, it's all good, bro. I keep looking at the names, too. It's crazy.
The last king of Greece.
Secret societies are everywhere.
I mean, it's so interesting, man.
I mean, we live in a town of probably 10,000 people. Yeah. It's not super huge, not super small, but we have a Masonic temple. I mean, I've been through towns with probably 1,000 people that have Masonic temples. Like, these things are out there, they exist.
And that's just, that's like an example.
Like the one guy was talking about, which we didn't touch on these too much today, but the Golden Dawn. And
OTO, I can't remember what that stands for.
Yeah, I can't remember what it stands for.
It's Latin, it's Ordo something.
Yeah, but like, you can get on these on these organizations' websites
and just join
them.
Yeah, and
then it's like, it's up to you to which, you know, how deep you go into it, and the more you learn,
what you use that information for.
Right.
And that's the same as Freemasonry. Like, I've got a good friend I used to be in a band with that's in the Freemasons.
Yeah.
And he's a good dude. He talks about, he's really into what seems to me like, Buddhist and Taoist stuff, looking inwards and a lot of self-reflection and stuff like that. I think he knows a lot about Gnostic stuff, like that's a whole different, when I say Gnostic, I mean Gnostic, which is, it's like an offshoot of like a different interpretation of God in Christianity, which is super interesting. But I mean, he's a good dude. He's a good dad. He's got he's not putting out any ill will towards anybody, and he's a Freemason. So I mean, it's whatever you do with the information. It's an intent, like we talk about all the time. Like it's like, what is your intent with this stuff? But yeah, I guess we could start wrapping it up. We've been talking for a good an hour and 25 minutes. Anything you want to say in closing? I guess we can both have our little
no, just
closing thoughts.
Appreciate you guys sticking around if you've made it this far. We're going to dig a lot deeper into some of these. I'd like to get more into the Order of the Dragon, give a few of these like their very own episode.
Mm-hmm.
Focus more on some
Al
of the
Gore.
members.
Sorry, I keep seeing names on here, and it's just...
He's everywhere, too.
Oh, bro.
So, yeah.
Alan Greenspan.
There's a lot of stuff out in the world that's crazy, and we're going to talk about all of it.
I guess the only thing I would say, I guess in closing, is, like I've been reiterating all the time, we're not, saying that this is like absolute truth. And these podcasts are really just for, like I said, speculation and letting the imagination run wild and just talking about it. But if anything, man, just please look into stuff yourself. Don't take what we're saying for granted. Look, do your own research. And I see this a lot on like social media, and people are like, oh, you do your own research. That means you go on YouTube and look up videos. No, like actually trace names, trace money, trace organizations and their histories. People that they work.
Most of it is.
That's what I'm saying. It's all available information. When you do your own research,
you'd be surprised what's on the CIA's website.
Yeah, please go to the CIA's website and look on that. Like there's so much stuff on there that's just open source. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that's not open source that they know about. But I mean, the stuff that they at least have on there is like, they talk about remote viewing and astral projection, and
we get into
they
all
looked
that.
all. I mean, man.
Yeah, so I guess if you guys have any secret societies or organizations you'd like us to talk about or that you know about, we like to look up in our free time. Leave them down in the comments section. We'll get deeper into some more. We'll look up some more and talk about them. There's so many of them, man. They're so cool to look into. 'Cause I really like the Freemasons, and I really like the Templars and that whole story.
It's interesting to know about, man. It's
definitely, yeah.
Secret history. It's history you didn't even know existed, really.
Yeah. And then it's also cool. It's like, because a lot of this, like we talked about, you can look up, like they factually exist. And it's cool to let the mind wonder on what they do and why the hell do you do it, and do you have our best interest as
an organization and a group, as as the elite, like what are your true intentions? That's really what my thing is with it.
Oh yeah. So it's gonna wrap it up for today.
Thank you for watching.
Always. Thank you for thinking.
Yes, please.
Catch you on the next one.
Peace.